What's up, guys? It's Michael. Season 3 Talk About It. Today I'm joined by Matt Danskin with Restoration Referral System and Apex Roofing and Restoration.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
What's up, guys? We are back. We've got a special episode of today's Talk About It. Season 3 Talk About It. Today we're joined in person. He came all the way to the studio with us. Matt Danskin of Restoration Referral System, Apex Roofing and Restoration. So you're a contractor, and then you've got the referral system that you do on the side.
That's right.
Accurate? All right.
Yeah.
So Matt's got a lot of experience, a lot of great knowledge. The advice that you submitted for getting on Talk About It was being intentional, and I think it gets down to like creating those processes that you can repeat. Maybe tell them a little bit about your background, and then let's dive into your advice for them.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up building houses with my dad. Got into selling construction, and then realized what a great industry roofing was. And really brought, all the experience from my other careers into roofing. So, yeah.
Perfect. So I forgot to even talk about the tacos here. I think the deal, and Pate's an attorney, so I'm guessing he laid out the contract really well. But the deal was any tacos eaten in studio.
Okay.
We're having a donation for. So I went ahead and got you 3 and myself 3. I usually do 5 by myself, but we'll do an extra taco today, $60 to charity. I'm going to dig into my tacos. Tell us a little bit about why being intentional is so important, both from what you do as a contractor, but then also what you're teaching with Restoration Referral System.
Yeah, sure. So I think it all kind of goes in one. I talk to a lot of other contractors, and I try to look introspectively myself at what are the sources that I'm getting my business, what are the good things and bad things about those sources, which ones are profitable, which ones are easy. And so for me with Restoration Referral System, that's where I really started to focus in, compared to buying phone leads, door knocking, internet leads, all these different things that are not necessarily bad. When I got a referral from an insurance agent, I closed it at a higher percentage. I was very efficient. I got to keep those deals. We got to build those deals. I didn't have to compete with other contractors for them. And so that's where I focused my efforts. So I think in terms of, being intentional about what you're doing, look at your own business. And maybe that answer is not the same for everybody, but what is the most effective thing that you're doing? And maybe scrap some of the other things, so that you're being intentional and knowing your numbers, knowing what's working, what's not working, with those lead sources.
Perfect. And another common thing we've had and talk about it this season is knowing your numbers and being dialed in there. When you're thinking about that, how important is being diverse in how you're getting your leads and getting your traffic compared to how well you're closing and hitting numbers? Obviously with Restoration Referral System, you've got a great system. You're working with agents, you're getting referrals.
Yeah.
Can that be 100? Is that something you recommend being 100% of your lead flow, or do you have to diversify a little bit?
I think in terms of referrals from insurance agents, it can be very nearly 100% of your stuff. You should be getting referrals from your existing clients too. If you're not, you're probably not doing a very good job. But referrals can make up a huge portion. If you look at, like right now, we're dealing with COVID-19. If you're door knocking and all of a sudden that's illegal, you do want to be diversified into something else. If with phone leads, I know those can be a great source right after a storm, but 3 months later, most of those phone lead places can't produce anything for you. No matter how much money you throw at them, they just won't sell you more leads. And so, I think there is some value in being diversified, but really just whatever that plan is for somebody, just be intentional about it. Know why you're doing what you're doing, and go out and execute that plan.
Absolutely. So let's talk the door knocking phone leads a little bit, because there's nothing wrong with it. There's companies doing tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
Yeah, for sure.
Door knocking and buying phone leads. What are they doing though that may be different? I want you to go a little deeper on the being intentional. Because it can't just be to grow my company and grow my numbers. I can't just keep adding salespeople, because my margins are going to stay the same. If I'm just doing that. What are some things that you see people doing as far as being intentional to get more sales, to track things, those kind of things?
I think with any company that scales, first off, they have to have a process. They need to have something that is the same for every single person. And so, how they inspect a roof needs to be the same for every single person, every single claim. If it's not, you can't scale that. How you sell, your sales process needs to be the same pretty much for every single person. So I can take the guy that was a sandwich artist at Subway 2 weeks ago, and now he can be a great roofing salesman because we have a good process. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to really get frustrated with trying to find those awesome people that can go out and sell and do their thing all by themselves, as opposed to just giving them a process to step into and letting that carry the weight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love making analogies to sports and athletics, and I think a lot of it comes down to that. Even the best teams, shout out for Pate again here, Alabama, what they're doing is fairly simple, but they've gotten to where they're so good at it that they do it better than everybody else. So when you're talking about, the sandwich artist from Subway, bringing him in, having a process to where I can get him so where he's comfortable and he's out selling roofs, and then having my rock star that's out there and finding ways, and I think I'm going to see what your opinion is. I think it comes down to tracking. How do I get my rock star so that maybe instead of, let's say 40%, they're knocking 40% of the doors they're knocking, they're getting an inspection on, and then another percentage of that they're actually getting a signed deal on. How important is having numbers so that they're striving to get better?
I think the numbers are going to bear themselves out. So you want to monitor the numbers to understand what's happening, but just seeking for a number, it is never going to happen. You need to seek to improve that process and seek to execute on that process, and then the numbers are going to be there. It's like you said with sports analogies, with a basketball shot. I'm not so much worried about how many points I scored in the game. I want to make sure that my shot, the form, is perfect. If I do that and I'm taking the right shots and my form is perfect, the points will be there.
Yep. No, I love that. How do I make I love the sandwich artist from Subway line. How do I help make him the best salesman I can make him? At the same time, how do I make my rock star that oftentimes roofing contractors or just contractors in general, that rock star, he knows he's a rock star. How do I help push him to get him even better, and those kind of things? And I think you're dead on. It's the process. What little things could they be doing throughout their process to maybe just close one more deal or 5 more deals or whatever it is? So I think those are all great points. Let's focus on that process a little bit more. And I know that we've got it in a couple other episodes where we dive in, but processes are so vital to scaling any company and doing well. How important is having that process tangible so that your team can see it, refer to it whenever they need it?
Well, yeah, that's a great point. That's huge that process is communicated in one way or another. So that can, take the form of, written videos, even just with the technology that you're using, where it kind of happens automatically. That's, a great process. If it can happen automatically, you take the extra steps and the extra work out of it as much as you can to keep a consistent process.
Absolutely. So hitting on a lot of good things here. The technology piece of it, I love that. You know, obviously,
You know anything that will do that?
a few things. But you know, with technology, I'm able to at least make my process more efficient. And if I have good technology, if the right technology is in my team's hands, they can become more efficient. And now it's, hey, what are we good at? I think it's probably really important to understand why you're good at what you're good at too, and like really dive into that. You know, with restoration referral system, like what are we good at? Well, we're good at getting referrals from agents. Let's figure out why. What's working with that, and then once I've done that, now I can also get better at what I'm doing well. How important is it, no matter if I'm door knocking, cold calling, working with agents, to figure out what maybe our weaknesses are? Not to say, hey, we're going to get away from this, but hey, we're maybe a little weak or we can do better in this area.
Yeah.
How important is that in your different processes?
Well, yeah, I mean, the weaknesses are as important as the strengths. If you are, really, that's the only way that you come about a good process. So if you start with a process with all its flaws and you do it the same every single time, you're going to be able to figure out what the weak points are. And then you can pull those out and retrain on them. And, you know, with restoration referral system, that's essentially how I came to the finished product. Was I had interactions with insurance agents. I was meeting with 2-3 agents a day, and I would go back to my notes and go, well, I said that and that didn't work. Well, when I said that, they get really excited and they, sent me a referral right away, and really just, kept going through the same process over and over again, so that the market would flush out what was working, what wasn't, because you're not always going to know. And then just, taking out those weak points and making them stronger.
Absolutely. So I want to get to a break here. When we get back from the break, I want to dive into that a little bit more, because I'm going to guess restoration referral system is good. It's a good product right now. It's a great thing to put in your team's hand to go get referrals. But I'm guessing it's not a finished product, and it never will be a finished product. And I want to talk a little bit more about that of,
Sure.
How do we continually improve? Even when we think we're as good as we can be, how do we continue to improve? So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about that.
Cool.
Let's talk about it.
Hey guys, remember, if you do have questions, go ahead and comment below. At the end of the season, we're going to be going live with a special guest, and we'll get all those questions answered for you.
Let's talk about it.
All right, we're back here. Matt Danskin, Apex Roofing and Restoration Referral System. That's a mouthful. But let's talk about, and we'll talk more on the Restoration Referral System, because it is a great tool right now. You can put it in contractors' hands. I've heard firsthand from contractors, they're winning with it right now.
Yeah.
You won with it.
Yeah.
It can't be a finished product, though. I'm assuming you're continually improving, trying to, draw lines through things that maybe you thought were working, and you say, you've got to be able to look in the mirror and say, you know what, it's time for that line to go. We're going to replace it with this. How important is it to be able to assess what you're doing as a process and be critical of yourself? Because I think a lot of times owners run into that and they say, hey, I came up with this idea. This is my baby. It has to work, or I'm a failure.
Right.
How important is that self-reflection?
I think that's a great point. With this, of course, I brought it to the market. And I'm like, hey, look at what I created. Isn't this awesome? Isn't this great? And then it's been amazing working with so many other contractors that are in different types of markets, or their company's structured differently, or, they just run into different scenarios than I ever would. And so I get the opportunity to look at that with them and, and look at ways that we can adapt the system to be more effective in their specific scenario. And even in the same market, things are going to change. So we have to continually be staying on top of it and changing with the market, changing with culture or whatever it is.
Yeah, have an ear to the ground and know what's happening. That's I probably should have said that at the start of the episode, but that's why you're here in town is processes, being intentional, being consistent.
Yeah.
We shot an awesome video on documentation and going through inspections. And the one we shot was on a roof. That's what you know.
Yeah.
I don't know any of the trades, so I said I'll go along with what you know, Matt. But what we did on that roof goes to every single vertical. It doesn't matter what contracting vertical you're in. You have to be consistent from the second your guys step on the job all the way through the end. Maybe talk about why that's so important a little bit, and how obviously company cam is your choice for the documentation, but how important just technology in general is to any of those processes.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of being consistent in your documentation, that's one of the reasons I like company cam, is the fact that it makes it so easy to do the documentation that nobody has an excuse not to do it. If I have to save a photo to my phone and then text it to somebody and then they have to save it and they have to upload it to a file or whatever, it just doesn't happen. Or maybe they'll send me 3 pictures. If all I have to do is snap, 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 it's going to happen a lot more. And so, having something that's easy to do allows us to make that process whatever we want it to be, and do that consistently. So that a lot of times looks like taking 100 photos of a roof inspection, even when we don't find damage. I talk to so many contractors that literally, they go up on the roof, they go, oh, there's no damage. They climb down. They might not even tell the customer goodbye. And they're sitting on a gold mine there, where they could be documenting that roof in its good condition, and doing it every time consistently, and they're going to build up that book of business where when the next storm rolls through, they've got something already ready to go.
Yeah, and I would say that's true for all the verticals.
Yeah.
The easiest message to sell to a homeowner is the message of, you don't need my services today. Sold.
Yeah.
I don't have to pay you anything today? No.
Yeah.
Or instead of needing the new furnace that I thought I was going to need, there was some super easy thing in there and it's a $60 service charge and on their way. That's great. So that delivering that message is so easy. And like you said, taking advantage, that's the hard part, is getting on the roof or getting to look at the HVAC unit or getting to inspect some paint to see, hey, does it need done today? Can it wait? Those kind of things. So making sure I take full advantage of that while I'm there. So that's going to bring me to I'm going to put you on the spot here. This is a tough question. I think technology is a huge part of this. Having something that's easy, putting a process in place that's difficult to follow and to execute on isn't going to work for your team. So putting an easy process into place using technology is a huge part of it. How do you suggest getting buy-in from that team on, because your inspection it's not hard. I mean, I could learn. I could probably see you do it one more time and just watch the video and probably have a pretty good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing to it.
But it takes a little bit of time. It takes more time than going and taking 5 photos and saying, well, roof's total. I'm going to hope it gets bought. Fingers crossed.
Right.
How do we get that buy-in from my team? What suggestions do you have there?
I think, from an owner's standpoint, they have to take responsibility first. And, most owners do. But they have to follow through with that process and be the model. And then let the salespeople see, one, you can just say, hey, you work for me, you're going to do what I say you're going to do. But, a good leader is going to show them the process and then show them the results. Look, all my supplements got paid for. Look, my customer's happy with me. Look, my insurance agent is referring more business to me because of the transparency that I provided. Look, when that next storm came through, I already had before pictures, before the damage happened. Now I have after pictures. And you can too. All you have to do is do the same processing. Mm-hmm. And so I think, to a certain degree, you have to hold people's hand and show them not just we're going to do this extra work for the sake of doing extra work, but here's what we get for all that extra. And it's really not a lot of extra work to get a lot more out of it. We talked about this earlier. I'm all about being efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get paid as much as I can for as little of work as I can. And so I want to set the table so that, the business comes to me, that I get to keep all the business, that I, get paid properly for all the business. And so those things just all flow back into that.
No, I love that. And I think it really boils down to you hit it, it's the why. Not just hey, this is what we do, why, and the why can't be, well, because I own the business. The why has to be because we get our supplements paid for, or we get, recurring revenue if we're an HVAC company because we did it the right way the first time,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. But helping educate them and helping them get to understand the why is huge. We could go on a whole nother tangent. I don't want to get into like how you compensate those kind of things, but I'm thinking to myself, that has to just be fair. And you have to find ways that your team see as fair because, it would be one thing for owner to take a phone call in small, mid-sized company and say, you know what, I'd love you to come out. Oh yeah, you got this house. Yeah, I'll come out and do that. And then as you're talking, it's like, hey, the reason that I got this phone call was because Matt did such a great job with Mrs. Smith, and now rewarding Matt and saying, hey, remember that process that you went through with Mrs. Smith? Well, we just got another job because of it, and finding ways to really reward your team. How important is that to be, able to show them not only like, hey, this is the process, but finding ways to show them where the process actually pays dividends for them.
Yeah, I think, there's as many different pay plans as there are roofing companies out there. But I'm a big believer that people should be paid based on what they produce. And so whether that's a revenue model, a profit split model, a revenue share, there's all sorts of different things there. These things are going to be things that help the business be more profitable, be more efficient. And so that should be reflected in what the person's being paid. And then even just, we haven't really talked about just the CYA, which is worth the price of admission for Company Cam by itself. But, those are things that, you can dodge bullets. You didn't have to pay for that driveway because we had a picture showing that it was already broken before our guys pulled onto it.
Yeah.
Hey man, here's $100. Thanks for taking that picture or whatever, because you just saved yourself $5,000. People can be creative about that, just based on how generous they are. But I think in most cases, they're going to be directly compensated based on them making the company more money and saving more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's a perfect example of like the CYA. Hey, the process says we document, damage, whether it's the scope of the damage while we're there or it's outside of the scope of damage while we're there. We need to document showing, hey, before we start inspection, and then also you talk about documenting before you start actual tear off and doing the work. Hey, let's show what's there. Yep, see this gutter? It was already damaged. See this siding? It already had this big black mark going down it. I don't know what it's from. It's already there. Roof's still on. And then, fine. Here's a $50 bill because when Mrs. Jones called, you took the right pictures. I didn't even have to call you, and I was able to show Mrs. Jones that was already there. I know you've got stories for days about missing ladders and all sorts of good stuff there. We'll
Holes
save
that we put in the roof.
Yeah, we'll save those for another day. But really appreciate you coming to the studio. You're of our 10 experts to bring advice. You're the only one that I got to enjoy tacos with in studio. So I really appreciate that. And, great advice.
Well, thank you.
Be consistent and find what works. I think that's really what it boils down to is like double down, triple down on what's working for you, and don't worry about having to do 900 different things to get your leads. Find what works and, just keep going to the well and getting your leads. So
100%.
Yeah, appreciate you coming in and
absolutely.
Let's talk about it.